Hey guys, welcome back to Tower of God New World. In today's video, I wanted to take a look at a tier list we've got over here on Pridewind. Now, I did have some input into this one with Antilla. Just keep in mind, this is way too early to get like a firm understanding of all characters. There's a bunch of characters in here that I feel really comfortable with placements. There's a few that I would personally adjust in here, especially around this dark area and stuff like that. But I'll go through my thoughts and this tier list. And the other thing I want to mention is that all these tank type characters, it's too hard to gauge them at the moment because we're still in the early stage, and this is based around campaign. So they've got the disclaimers in here. This is story performance only, and I'm judging this when we were discussing it. It was like sort of like chapter 13 onwards that we were discussing for. And once again, they've stated that SSRs are at +9. To me, I don't know if we categorize it as SSRs at +9 because otherwise, if they were only at +9, Hats would drop and Wang would come up because Hats needs those extra dupes to really perform. But once he gets them, he's like really good at the role he fills. So just think about it like as in like when we look at DPS characters, think of it as if putting them on your primary wish list and the performance you can optimally get from them once you invest in them. That's the way I sort of look at this. And once again, this is for the mid game. So when we get to the end game, it often changes in things like Hats may fall off in the end game because in the mid game as hyper carry, when he's power leveled, he's doing a lot of tanking as well as damage, but his damage isn't as high as someone like Wang. So when we get to like maybe like chapter 35 that comes in the future and we've got everyone at the max level and everyone's even leveled, then some of these hyper carry units do fall off, but I feel like that is a long way down the road. So that's the first thing. Like I said, tanks as well, because we're not building them, everyone's focusing on building their main carries. So a lot of the tanks that aside from the two tanks that aren't tanks that we have in the game with Data Mashni and Data Zahad, all the other tanks don't have the invincibility. So it's really a matter of how tanky they are and how well their kit performs once they get maxed out, because they just can't tank as effectively as a hyper carry, a Data Mashni, or a Data Zahad. So we can't really tell at this stage. So that's a bunch of disclaimers. Once again, take this with a massive grain of salt. We're still learning, we're still evolving, but let's go through the tiers. We've separated them into colors. So firstly, yellow Evan. I don't think much needs to be said about Evan. He is just the best support in my opinion. He is crazy. Now we've got Hua up here as well because Hua in this mid game stage, maybe she falls off later on, but I'm using her at 3 to 4x deficit. I actually just cleared a stage at 4x deficit using her as my carry. But the good thing about Hua is even if she's not your carry, she is a very strong support. She does take a bit of playing around to get her to survive because she does run into melee, but because she stands back, you can normally make it work with her. Like I said, she is up there because she's not in my opinion, a better first carry than Hats, but she's a really solid investment as a second carry because she could be a support and a carry. And because she's really good at two roles, that's why she gets up into that SS tier. I would say as first carry, I would still recommend Hats at this stage. Then we have Data Mashni. She is just the best tank in the game. She has the most reliable invincibility period, and that's why she is there. Now, she is closely followed by Data Zahad. If you don't have her, you need to have him for progression if you want to push some serious deficits, and that's why he's up there in S. He's not quite as good as her, so he's dropped down one tier, and that's pretty much the way it's played. The other thing is with these, when we look at damage potential, which is really starting to kick in here with Evan Kell, the other thing is Data Mashni with 3 dupes, she can actually carry, whereas Zahad can't. But when we look at the placing of Evan Kell, Big Mashni, Karaka, we're looking at these guys for this like chapter 13 onward phase at being 3 dupes. So 3 green stars for their damage capacity. If you've only got 1 copy of Evan Kell and you're getting in towards chapter 16, if you're pushing a 3 to 4x deficit, she probably falls off at that point. So keep in mind, you will need those dupes to get them fully functional. It's hard to place them on a list with the SSRs because the investment period is way different. But Evan Kell, if you do have the dupes or in the early game, she's just an absolute monster, can clear things really quick. Like I said, in that chapter 16 plus, if you don't have the dupes, she would definitely drop down. Then we have Rachel. Now, I would personally mix up this a little bit. I would also bring Narae up to this tier. I would bring her up to this tier if she was at 3 dupes. Like she gets so much hit stun. She gets actually crazy once you got 3 dupes as a carry. Now, she will fall off probably in chapter 18 at 3 dupes, probably same as Evan Kell, 18, 19, 19-ish, they'll probably fall off. But definitely, I would bring that up for that phase. I feel like she's actually pretty decent from some of the replays I've seen. I would also bring Kuhn up. I think he's great. And I would also bring up maybe I'd leave them there. I don't know. I feel like these guys are all really solid anyway. But let's just look at the list for what it is, because I'm not going to argue little semantics over one ranking. But I think all these are really, really viable. But Rachel, just a really solid carry. Now, I've spoken to some people in like chapter 24, 25, and they think she's a really strong carry. For that period of the game, so she like starts to scale up better over time. The thing is, you don't want to use her as a sub DPS, because then if you've got a hyper carry and she's the sub DPS, she's linked to them and they're taking more damage, so they die faster. That's the one catch with her. Then we got obviously Hats, amazing carry DPS. In my opinion, the best one to go for on your wish list primary spot first up. Then we got Balm, who is just great support. You know, giving that 40 to 80% attack and defense for the whole battle to your teammate. Is just huge, plus the energy regeneration and stuff like that. Wang, a great DPS that requires lower investment than Hats to work well, and Bird is very similar to him in general. I've seen more people build Wang, but I have been seeing some really good stuff with the Bird, so they can sort of sit in there together in that A tier. And then we move on to the dark units. Like I said, Karaka, just kind of in the first 8 chapters, he's SS, and then he just drops off. His damage isn't there. He dies too quick. Yes, sometimes you can tech use him for his fear, but that's sort of where he falls off. And I mentioned all these units. You can cheese the whole enemy team with Endorsi to group them up at the start of battle, or she can work as a carry as well. All these units, fantastic in general. Then we have Yellowy. Yellowy is just a great buffer. She increases, what is it? Is it attack and attack speed of your highest attack ally, or is it I can't remember what but she buffs big. Wait, let's just open up a new tab and double check. I've been using her on my red team as well. While that loads, let's just go over here. I'm having trouble with my internet, but yeah, she's great. This is where we get into range of territory that I haven't tested myself, so I can't quote on these. I've heard both of these guys can be decent. He's dodge, he's more nuke. But I haven't tested them, so I can't verify. I have seen some good replays with Sleepy. He's pretty good. Yuri's still really solid, but you got to play her as a DPS behind a tank. She doesn't tank. She just has to play as a DPS, get her shields up, and then she can sort of snowball. You also want to have the exclusive equipment where she starts healing as well when under the shield. And then we've got Lucille, who is basically just like the support for green units, so she gets up into that A tier as well. Let's see if this one's loaded up. What is it? She increases the highest attack, the critical rate of the ally with the highest attack by 40%, and their attack speed by 40. It's pretty solid for the first 15 seconds. It makes it quite decent. So then we move on. We got Shibisu. He's the yellow buffer, gives all yellow units the attack, but he just dies way too quick. Rock, he's going to be a good one once we get into the end game, where I think you have dupes up and then can survive. But at the moment, he just commits suicide too much. And for SSRs, they want a bit more than that. Then we got these two units. It's kind of funny because I talk about these guys being in B as being bad, but these two in B are really good because they are lower tier units. She just gives haste to your carry at the start of the battle, which is really nice. And she has a 8-second fear once you macro her out. It's like 5 to 8 second fear, which is huge. And then she also has a sleep for the furthest enemy. So she is really, really strong. But once again, these two, they're a bit squishier. They are lower rarity units and they've got their little niche use, but both very, very viable. These two, I honestly have no idea on, haven't tested. I've seen some really good results from him. He may be one of the better endgame DPS. I'm thinking we'll have to wait and see. We've got some decent sub DPS support, but I feel like you do need more investment into this character to make them work. This guy, I think he's going to be a beast once invested, but can't test it. He's got a good tech usage where you can pull an enemy in, which is handy. He's the blue buffing unit, and he's the tank that we got free copies of. Once again, can't really test him out until we get dupes, and he's not in the position to do so at the moment. And her, I honestly have no idea. I know she lunges straight opposite to the enemy opposite her, but I feel like she's going to commit suicide a fair bit. But we'll have to wait and see. Then we got the assassin dude. He's actually really good in boss fights. He's amazing in boss fights with his defense shred on his ultimate, but in campaign, he just flops super hard. This guy, once again, I haven't done enough testing myself. I use him in tech usage to muddle up the enemy team because he dashes to the enemy opposite him. Kind of like her, but I haven't tested her out in that spot. But I can use him sometimes to RNG and help RNG. She has decent multipliers, decent CC, but I just think she has survival issues. I don't know. I haven't tested enough. Once again, I'm happy to admit when I haven't tested something and I don't know a comfortable placing for it. Then we've got Apple, who's great for the dodge bosses, being Zahard and also the boss that is, where is he? This dude. They dodge a lot. She just basically means that that your accuracy is pumped up and you don't miss. So she's really good for bossing like that. And at the moment, there's only the 2 SRs and 1 R in here. But as we find out more that are really good usage, we will add them in. This dude, I have no idea. I thought it was Chick Forever. Haven't tested. I feel like this guy could be really strong. He's got decent multipliers, decent CC off memory. I want to test him, but I'm not willing to put the investment in. And then this guy's the assassin. This guy's the ranger that jumps to the back row, and I feel like he's going to commit suicide a lot, but his multipliers look nice. He looks like a good bossing unit as well. So these two I don't have too much experience with. But like I said, basically up the top here, I feel pretty comfortable with this. These top 3 tiers, SS, S, and A, these are all great units, and like you could shuffle them around between the tiers, but I feel like these are all just really solid units to get you along your way. And I feel like this is pretty comfortable. Now, the one other thing I want to talk about is Jaja. I think she easily comes up here into this A tier. The one issue I have in this period of the game with Jaja, unfortunately she's not on here yet because it's too early. But we can actually go take a look at her. Where is she? Where's the old? There she is. So with her, I think she's fantastic. She got the heals, she got the shields, she got the energy regeneration, and she's got the red attack. The one issue is that if you're using a Data Mashni or Data Zahard as your stall tank, she always puts this on them when they're just about dead and they just get clapped anyway, and you would rather it go on your hyper carry. So that's the one issue I'm finding with her, but in general, she's a fantastic unit, and I think she would sit nicely into this A range. And then obviously the only one we have left is Viol, and I have no idea. I haven't even tested him yet, so I'll have to wait and see. But anyway, that is the updated tier list so far. Let me know any changes you guys think. I'm always keen to hear different opinions and stuff like that about these tier lists, because once again, and this is just story based, this is mid game based, and this will definitely evolve. If you look at something like AFK Arena, the tier list for early game into end game is just flipped upside down. So we'll have to wait and see once we get there. But that is the look. I'm pretty happy with this for this stage of the game. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.